Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this month's ScholarCAST. My name is Courtney Pomeran, and I am the Member Engagement Specialist with NSCS and Torch and Laurel. We are so happy to have you all here. While everyone is getting settled in, I just wanted to go over some housekeeping rules with you guys. We are recording this ScholarCast, and we'll be sending you the recording by email within the next 24 to 48 hours. We'll also upload this recording to our Scholar Central platform and underneath the Resources tab for you to reference as well if you need to. All mics and cameras are turned off during the ScholarCast. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please utilize the questions box. We will be monitoring the questions box throughout the presentation and be pulling those questions for our Q&A session towards the end of the presentation. If we can't get to your questions, we are going to provide an email for you guys to email to get those answers for those questions you may have. The chat box is not currently working, so if you have any questions or comments, please utilize that questions box. There are 3 handouts for each and every one of you under the Handouts tab. One of the handouts is a PDF file that has all of our important links to NSCS and Torch and Laurel emails and websites, as well as a little PDF file that has the current open scholarships for all NSCS members. And we also have a handout that has information of steps to getting onto the Award Springs platform. All right, I think we're at a good enough number to go ahead and get started. So thank you again for joining us for the May ScholarCAST Scholarship Workshop, Writing an Effective Scholarship Essay. Our presenter today is Ms. Jen Castillo. She is the Senior Manager of Scholarships with NSCS and Torch and Laurel. She has been working with us for about 10 years now. She manages the day-to-day operations of the scholarships department and works with NSCS and Torch and Laurel scholarship partners to create more opportunities for our members. Since starting NSCS, she has seen the scholarship program grow and opportunities for our students increase, which we always love to see. She loves working with the students and to prepare them for the application process. And in this presentation, Jen will be covering how to apply for those NSCS scholarships as well as Torch and Laurel scholarships. She'll go over tips for writing an effective scholarship essay and best practices for applying to scholarships. Without further ado, Jen, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Courtney, and thank you for joining us today for the ScholarCast. I'm Jen, and I'm so excited to talk about one of my favorite topics, scholarships. So I know for some of you, joining NSCS and Torch and Laurel, scholarships may have been a big part of that decision, and I just want to let you know that is totally okay. I was a student once, so I know how expensive college can be, and I know with tuition rising each year, scholarships are so important to apply for to help pay for it all. So I'm going to talk about the things that I've learned in my many years of working in the scholarships department here at NSCS to help you guys apply for some of those scholarships and hopefully win one of the scholarships that we have available here at NSCS and Torch and Laurel. So I'm really excited to get started and to share with you what I have, the knowledge that I've learned to share with you guys. So we're gonna get started. I'm gonna share with you a presentation. So let me just share my screen 1 second and get this started. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. All right, so we're gonna get started now. Thank you so much for being patient while I got all the technical part ready. So we're going to go ahead and get started now. Like I said, I am going to be talking about some fun stuff here. Sorry, let me get my camera off so we can focus on the presentation. Sorry about that. Okay, so this is the agenda for today's presentation. We're going to be talking about the basics for NSCS scholarships and what we offer just quickly, and then we'll be going into applying for scholarships here at NSCS. And then we're going to touch on something that's really helpful for I know for you students is tips for writing an effective scholarship essay. So we're going to go over best things to do when you're writing that essay, what to include, what to leave out. And then we're going to end with best practices for applying for any scholarships here at NSCS and anywhere that you're applying for scholarships. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with the first one. NSCS scholarships are probably the main reason that a lot of students do apply for NSCS membership, and it's one of the most direct ways that we can impact our members. So our scholarships are all member exclusive, and what that means is that only members can apply for our scholarships, making it a much smaller pool of applicants compared to most national scholarship programs. So your chances are actually pretty good if you start applying for scholarships. Our students are able to gain access to these scholarships as soon as they become a member. So you don't have to wait till you attend your induction ceremony or that first chapter meeting. You can get started applying for those scholarships right away. And you can apply for any and all scholarships you're eligible for. And we actually recommend that. There's no limit. So go through the list, make sure that you're applying for them, take advantage of everything that's there for you. These opportunities are meant for you as a member. Our main eligibility requirement is that you have a 3.0 GPA or higher. NSCS scholarships are all based on merit. So what that means is we don't look at financial need as a consideration for our decision. The scholarship review focuses solely on the essay responses, which is why I'm going to go over that a little later in the presentation. It's so important for us. So we really want to take your time when you're working on those essays. We have over 30 different types of scholarships here at NSCS. Many of those have multiple scholarship opportunities within each scholarship program. And there's opportunities for online members, community college members, alumni members. So if you're a senior and about to graduate, those opportunities don't end when you graduate. So make sure that you're looking at our alumni scholarships, like our graduate school scholarship and our debt reduction scholarship. Really great opportunities for you guys. Okay, now that we got the basic stuff out of the way, how do you actually apply? So this is the process. You can see it's very, very simple. And so sorry, I just looked. I have actually made a mistake in my numbering. So there are actually 4 steps. The first step, you're going to go ahead and go to the website. This is our new scholarship portal as of this fall, nscs.awardspring.com. If you haven't signed up for an account, that's the first thing you want to do. So you're going to sign up, register for an account. This is different than Scholar Central, so make sure that you know that you can't use the same login for Scholar Central. You're going to have to create a new account for the scholarship portal. But once you do, you set up your account, you have your email and your password. This is going to be where you go and apply and see everything that's available in our scholarships. The first thing that happens when you sign up, you're going to be put into the general application form. And these are very general questions like, what's your major, what's your minor, what's your GPA? And you only have to fill out this form once. But what happens with that information is it filters in all the scholarships that you qualify for based on how you answered those questions. So you're not applying for scholarships that you don't qualify for. So it makes it really easy to see what scholarships are meant for you. So once you fill out that general application, you'll just check your dashboard and you'll see all the scholarships there that you should be applying to. And then it's just a matter of completing the essays for each one of those scholarships. Very easy, but if you do have any trouble registering for an account, that's when you'll reach out to our member success team at NSCS at nscs.org. Very simple process. This is where you'll go to apply for our scholarships. Okay, now the fun part. This is what everybody wants to know. How do I get a scholarship? So here are some tips for writing a winning scholarship essay. And while I can't guarantee you will get a scholarship, what I can guarantee is that these are the things that our scholarship reviewers have mentioned that they're looking for. So when they're reading an application, they're really looking for these things, and they're really, more likely to put somebody into a finalist round if they have these things. So we're going to go through them and make sure that you have these steps down before you start applying. So the first one seems pretty easy, seems pretty basic. Start early and follow instructions. But I know this is going to be really hard for our college students who I know like to maybe wait till the last moment to start on an application. But a great scholarship essay was never written the night before. And if you do write it the night before, we probably are going to be able to tell. So make sure that you're allowing yourself enough time to be thoughtful in your response, but also all that time you need to read through those specific application requirements. Because sometimes there are things that you need to look out for. You don't want to miss something that could get you eliminated. So for example, here at NSCS, each one of our scholarship essay questions has a word requirement, which it seems like a very small thing. You'll see it underneath every one of our essay questions, but it's very important. It's something that we realize if you only put maybe 2 or 3 sentences in an essay, you didn't follow the directions. So you're not really very committed to, wanting the scholarship. So it's important to us. You should be really paying attention to those things like instructions in the essay, in the application. And for other organizations, it could be something like a letter of recommendation or a transcript. And those things really do take time to arrange. So you don't want to be waiting until the last minute and get eliminated from the selection process for something so simple like a simple direction. Okay, the second one is to proofread. Proofread. You want to stand out. You definitely want to stand out, but you don't want to stand out for a spelling mistake or a grammatical error. So make some time in your schedule. Ask a friend, a parent, or professor, somebody you trust, to proofread your work before submitting. If it comes down to 2 really great finalists, this is what could determine who gets the scholarship. So make sure that you're taking the time to proofread before submitting. The next one, answer the question. Seems like a natural thing to do, right? But I think for a lot of us, we can get a little lost in our response. So I recommend students start with an outline and really lay out what they want to say and the order they want to say it in before they get started, so they don't leave anything out and they're making sure that they're answering the question thoroughly. So that's my suggestion for this one. Start with an outline. Include examples. Reviewers often comment to me that when an applicant starts with an anecdote or a story as an example, they're more likely to feel connected to that applicant. So the essay shouldn't feel like an essay you're maybe writing to a professor in history class. So it should feel more personal. If you can find a way to really let you stand out, make an example of what you're trying to say, like give an example, I think that will go a lot further. The next one is to make your response stand out. You've got to think about the reviewers who are reading through application after application, and they all pretty much have the same sort of material. If you think about it, every student is in college. They all have very similar experiences, but how are you going to stand out? So really think about how you're going to make your response unique. And I wouldn't recommend lying or doing something that is, not truthful, because you want to be authentic here. But think about how maybe you have like a hook to start off your paragraph or your essay. So it's something that's very, it's kind of like what we talked about giving an example or starting with a story. It's how you're going to have your response stand out. And this is really important, this last one. I think is probably one of the more important points that I want to make for us here at NSCS is demonstrating the NSCS pillars in your response. And sometimes this doesn't always work depending on the question that's being asked, but whenever you can work it in, try to work in scholarship, leadership, and service, and how you have these different areas that you have them and you can showcase them. And if you're struggling to do that, there are ways. If you get involved with your NSCS chapter, that's a great way to show that you're a leader. If you want to take on an officer role, or if you're an officer already at your chapter, you can talk about how you're a leader at your chapter. If you participate in service, in your school or at your church, or different ways that you serve your community, that's another way that you can show service. So really start thinking about how you're doing that so you can work it in. And I realize that not always going to be possible to make that work in every essay, but when it does come up, it's great that you'll be able to showcase the NSCS pillars, because in the end, that's who we're looking for in our recipients, is somebody who embodies what's important to NSCS. And this is true for any organization if you're looking at applying for other scholarships. Organizations with a particular focus, make sure you highlight that in your response. I think they'll be very impressed that you did the research and that you're thinking about that. So NSCS has some really great scholarships, but we're not the only ones. So I want to make sure that I give you some additional resources or places you can look for scholarships. So we'll start with the first one. Start with your hometown information. So there are things like community foundations that are in different areas, communities. These are started by a donor in a particular area that wants to give back just in their home and just in their community. And so a lot of times they do struggle to find applicants. So if you do have a community foundation in your area, see if they are offering scholarships. If you qualify for those scholarships, that's a great resource, great way to look for scholarships back home. Maybe your parents have a scholarship program at their employment that's open to children of employees. That's another great way to look for a scholarship back home. The next one, take advantage of resources at your school. You want to make sure that the people at your financial aid office know you, because they're there to help you. So make sure you're meeting with them regularly, and that if there are opportunities, that they'll be able to share those with you, but they have to know that you're interested. So I always think it's good to get to know them. Make sure you're meeting with them regularly. Think about what makes you stand out. And this can be anything from military status to first generation. Unique scholarships really narrow down the applicant pool. And this makes searching for scholarships a lot easier. So specific types of scholarships that you're looking for, you can start looking for scholarships based on these. And then lastly, search scholarship databases. There's so many out there. I only listed a few. But I just have to let you know, they do take some time to go through, and you do have to create a profile and put in a lot of criteria to get some great results. But if you're willing to put in the time and, you are aware that it's going to take some sifting through a bunch of information, there is information there. It just may, like I said, it may take some time to go through and might have to put a lot of information before you get back some really good, scholarship information. So just be prepared with that. Scholarship searches can be tricky. So I want to, give you some ideas on what you can do to create a good search strategy when you're thinking about doing an effective search. So I think what's helpful is coming up with maybe a list of terms that you can use for to categorize for your internet search. So the first one I have on here is what communities you belong to. So here you should consider things like ethnicity, race, religion, gender, sexuality, medical condition. These all fall under that category. What communities do you care about? So maybe it's the environment or social justice, and these things can also relate to your career too. But that would be the category you would put under communities you care about. Career interests. Is your career associated with the professional association? Do they offer scholarships? Sometimes you'll find this to be true if you plan to enter an underserved field. So right now it'd probably be nursing, or maybe even teachers are probably, trying to fill multiple positions nationwide. So there may be opportunities for scholarships out there. The next one, geographies. We kind of talked about this in the last slide. Is just don't overlook scholarships in your hometown. Really start to think about where you grew up, where you went to high school, where you're currently located, and just start to, kind of look around based on those geographies. And the last one here is a fun one, I think. Hobbies and interests. Make a list of all of your genuine interests and hobbies, and you might get some really great options here, and it's fun to search based on that. Okay, so we've covered a lot, but I want to make sure that I leave you guys with some best practices when it comes to scholarships. So the first thing is to maximize searching for scholarships. They're not gonna fall in your lap, unfortunately. That would be really nice, but scholarships really are going to take some time and effort on your part. So research and prep to make sure you're giving yourself the best chance possible. Apply for all scholarships you qualify for, regardless of amounts. I know we really want that $10,000 scholarship. I mean, I know I did, but don't overlook the smaller scholarships. I think if we put several small scholarships together, they can really make an impact. So apply for all scholarships that are available to you. Stay organized with all the scholarship deadlines approaching. And I think that people should just have a scholarship calendar that's just dedicated to these application dates and deadlines so you don't miss anything. I know our honor students are overwhelmed with so many different things coming up on their calendar. They've got school, they've got extracurricular activities, they're very, very busy. I think it's always helpful to have something that's just dedicated to your scholarship deadline so you don't miss out on an opportunity because you've had so much going on, which is very, possible. And the next thing is to perfect your essays. A lot of times what you'll see is, I know that scholarships essays will vary from, scholarship to scholarship, but there are some common themes that you'll see from time to time, and really try to work on those essays so you'll have them ready. They're 90% done when a scholarship becomes available, and you just have to do that last 10% or make it even better than the last time you did it. So really just continuously work on your essays so they're ready. And this is the best piece of advice, I think, is just not to give up. I know it can be really frustrating to apply over and over and over again and not to get one of the scholarships, but for some of my students, they've applied and maybe on the 6th scholarship they got it, or the 8th scholarship they got one. And so it's really hard to tell what's, if you're going to get a scholarship, but you definitely will not get a scholarship if you don't try. So make sure that you're giving yourself the best opportunities to succeed by following as many of these tips as possible, and don't give up. And if you have any questions along the way, I am always there to answer questions and love to talk about scholarships. You can always email me with those scholarship questions. And I am available to talk about more scholarships. If you have any questions I didn't cover throughout the presentation, I'd love to take those questions now.
I'm coming. Sorry. I had to finish up on one of the questions that someone asked. Well, thank you, Jen. That was a really good presentation. I really appreciate you doing that for us all. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. Please still utilize the questions box and we'll get to them as soon as possible. I've got a bunch of questions for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Just
all right.
send it my way.
The first one we got was if I applied to all the scholarships I qualify for, can I receive more than one scholarship?
Yes, we don't have any limitations on the number of scholarships that a student can receive. I do have several students who have won multiple scholarships, so that is completely possible. We don't look at, your past. Our reviewers are just looking at one scholarship at a time, and so they're just picking the best applications for that particular scholarship. So, if you happen to have won one in the past, that's great. You will win another one.
Good to know. Another question is if I previously received a scholarship through NSCS, that pretty much answers the same question. Can I apply for more? So yeah. The answer to that question would be yes.
Absolutely.
None of the scholarships have. Let me rephrase that. Let me see this. None of the scholarships have when they will be rewarded. It's a question of when will they be notified. How will I know if I've been chosen for a scholarship?
Sure. So our review period takes about 8 weeks. So that process begins when a scholarship closes. Once that scholarship closes, the 8 weeks begin from that period, and then we'll notify all applicants if they have received the award or did not receive the award. So you'll get an email, and also in the dashboard of your Award Spring account, you'll be able to see there as well if you were awarded or denied a scholarship once it's been determined.
Cool. Are there topics that you would want to avoid when writing a scholarship essay?
I don't think there's any topics that I would say are not, you would have to avoid, but I think you want to be careful about getting, it's okay to be personal, right? We want you to be personal. We want to get to know you. But if there's something that you wouldn't want somebody to read, because it's going to be multiple people in our review reading this application, just think about that. There's going to be multiple people reading your essay, and how comfortable you are with that. Other than that, I don't think there's ever anything that I would say you would have to avoid.
Are there any scholarship opportunities for graduate students?
We do. We have one that is currently open. It's the Geico Graduate Award, and that is open for students who are in grad school or about to go to grad school in the fall. And there are 4 $2,500 scholarships available for that one. And that just opens every year. So we're, always awarding every year for grad school the following year.
Awesome. I am a dual enrolled student. When I'm creating my profile, which graduation date do I put? My high school or my college? I am a Torch and Laurel member.
I think since you're a Torch and Laurel member, we'll go ahead and use your high school. And then once you become, or if you become an NSCS member, then we'll go ahead and have you change that to your college.
The same question kind of aligned with the dual enrollment. If an NSCS member is finishing up their AA, but they're also in a bachelor's degree program, what would you suggest them to do for their expected graduation date for that?
So expected graduation, you can do the one that is most immediate. And then every year you're going to have to update that general application. So you can update that information. So say next year in the fall, we'll have everybody update their general application. You can update it at that point if you would like. But that is something that can be constantly updated. Go in and change it. So right now, if you want to leave it as your AA graduation, and then once you pass that, if you want to change it to your 4-year graduation after that.
Awesome. We've got an abroad question. Can I get the study abroad scholarship considering I am an international student from Brazil at the North Carolina State University?
So this has come up before, and I think we have let our international students apply for that scholarship before. So yes, you can apply for that as long as you are going to a U.S. institution and you are, so that is the only requirement, as long as you're going to a U.S. institution.
What scholarships are good to apply to when looking for out-of-state colleges?
Out-of-state colleges. So which scholarships? So all of our scholarships would be beneficial at any school. We don't have, so depending on where you go to school, at the time you apply, we can send that scholarship wherever you are or wherever you would like us to send it if you're awarded the scholarship. So if you're planning on transferring, or if you are, deciding whether you're going to go to a different school, that's not a problem. We can award the scholarship wherever you have determined is the best place for you, and that money can be sent wherever that is.
Awesome. When I had previously applied for an NSCS scholarship, all my information was saved to my new application. Should we keep that in or redo it? I'm thinking they're talking about when they fill out a scholarship application, when they go to the next one that they are qualified for, that same information transfers over.
Oh yeah.
Should they update that, or should they take it out and just fill it out as if it was a new one?
I would fill it out as if it was a new one, just to make sure you have the most up-to-date information and that you're, it's not just old information that's just getting added in.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to do it.
How is the process of receiving the scholarship money once you earn it?
Yeah, so if you do, yeah, that's a great question. So if you are awarded a scholarship, how it will work is I will be notifying you that congratulations, you have won. And I will ask for information on where we will be sending the scholarship check. So if we're sending it to your school, the bursar's office information, and we get that information from you, and then we send a check directly to the school and it's applied to your account there. If you happen to be graduating, or if there's an issue, if like the money will cause some problem with your financial aid, then we can work with you and try to get the money maybe directly to you instead. And that's something we can definitely work on, but in most cases we send it directly to the school.
I've applied for over 70 scholarships this spring. Impressive.
Wow.
And I have used all of my mentions tips. What else will improve my odds?
So if you have applied all of those tips, I think that's great. I think the best thing to do is, if you're getting feedback from the places you're applying from, that would be another suggestion. If wherever you're applying for these scholarships, if you are denied a scholarship and they're able to tell you you weren't accepted because of this, that, and the other, then that can be helpful for you in the future of understanding what you can work on. And that might be another thing you can do to help improve for the future.
Similar to interviews, when you do an interview,
Mm-hmm.
what did I
Exactly.
do wrong?
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, that was all my pre-populated questions that I got throughout the presentation. We've got a bunch more that just came in, and I think we have just a little bit more time to go ahead and answer them. This one is, if I qualified for the study abroad scholarship, but is not planning to do this fall, can I still apply? So I think
So
what they're asking is, if I apply for it, but it's for the fall semester, do they have to use it for the fall semester?
So we can hold it if you're planning on using it in the spring, but it would have to be used in that particular academic year. So if you're not going to go in the fall, but you're hoping to use it in the spring, that's not a problem. But if it's not going to be used anytime in that next upcoming year, then, it may be a problem. But other than that, we can definitely, if it's between fall and spring, not a problem. You can definitely apply for fall and use it in the spring. Not a big deal for us.
The next one is, where can I find the dates that NSCS scholarships will be rewarded? I am having difficulties finding this information.
So we don't have actual dates, but if you can figure out, usually so I just tell people it's 2 months from the date the scholarship closed. So if you look at when a scholarship closed and if you applied for that particular scholarship and you're waiting to hear back, that could be a guide to when you'll be hearing something. But it normally takes us 8 weeks for the review period from the date the scholarship closed. So 2 months from that date.
The next one is similar to one of the previous questions. Is it all right to use the autofill for the same question on different applications? It's similar to that autofill section of what
Yeah. So
you
you
filled
can
out.
definitely do that, but I feel like your chances are better if you really sort of put the effort in and do a little bit more and try to, maybe add to it or maybe work on those essay questions a little more or whatever it is. For some of the questions, it may be easy to autofill if it's just like, you know, please list the events you've attended for NSCS and you can just autofill that in and it's the same and you just want to add to it. But if it's like an essay question, you probably want to spend a little more time and not just use an old essay that you've already used and maybe didn't get any, get a scholarship from that you tried before. So maybe like making sure that you try to work on those essays for sure.
Make a good first impression with each
Mhm.
one. Yeah.
Exactly.
Francesca asked, how young can you be to start applying for scholarships? I've never heard of an age requirement. So is there?
Yeah, so we don't have an age requirement. As long as you are in school and registered, then we can send the money directly to the school, and that's not a problem. For our Torch and Laurel members, I know they may not be in college quite yet. And in that situation, we can award the student who will be going to college. So that's not a problem, but we don't have any age requirements.
This one is kind of a long question. I had applied for all scholarships that they say I may qualify, but I never accepted to any. Must I add my resume to be qualified to any scholarship? And specifically, what kind of essay needed for scholarship to be specific?
So you don't need to include a resume. That's not necessary. The only thing you do need to do for, specific scholarships that you're qualified for is to respond with the essay responses that are required for each one. So make sure that you're spending your time writing the essay responses, and each one will have different essay questions. So make sure you look at them and respond directly to the essay prompts that are asked of each essay question. So they're not going to be the same. Each question will be different for each scholarship. So make sure that you're just looking and checking what those are and making sure you're checking the word requirement, which are required for each one. And that would be my suggestion. It's just making sure that you're checking that.
Now, my question for you for the word requirement. is it a word requirement, or is it kind of like Twitter where every little space and everything counts?
I think it's a word requirement, but what's great about our system is that as you're typing, it tells you how many words you've used. So you don't even have to count. Like it's telling you as you go in the actual space that you're supposed to be typing, how many words have already been used. So it keeps track for you, which is really great. But that's a good question. I think it's words and not spaces.
It's good to know.
Yeah.
Can we apply for scholarships starting from freshman year? If yes, can you recommend a few?
So all of our scholarships are open for students regardless of what year they're in school. So if you see any scholarships there that you qualify for, you don't have to be a certain year in school. You can start, like I said, once you fill out the general application, when you go on to Award Spring, it'll filter what scholarships you should be applying to. But none of them are like just for sophomores or just for juniors. We do have one that's just for graduating seniors, but other than that, you can apply for them as a freshman, a sophomore, a junior, and anytime. So just make sure that you fill out that general application and it'll show you what scholarships you should be applying to. But like I said, none of them have specific year requirements.
Good to know. Let's see. I'm trying to sift through them. They're all coming in really fast all of a sudden. They all have questions.
I love questions.
If I were to apply for and receive a graduating member award, and my anticipated graduation date moves from spring 23 to summer or fall 23, would I be able to receive that award? Could it be held? I think that's similar to what your previous answer was about holding it.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's something like so right now the scholarship is open. If you know that you're not graduating yet, then um, you know, that's okay. Then you can probably wait till next year. But if you're, not sure, go ahead and apply. So I think, it's definitely for graduating seniors. We want to make sure people who are graduating can benefit from it. It's a professional development award, so helping students who are going to the next part of their career, their college career, which is either grad school or maybe it's working or whatever it is, the funds are there to help you. So making sure you can take advantage of that for sure. So if you're graduating later this summer, that's totally fine. If you're graduating in the fall, that's totally fine. But if you're not graduating till next year, maybe you should wait till next year. Whatever it is, that's the situation. But it's always open this time of year every year. So but yeah, if you're graduating later this spring, later this summer, you should definitely apply for it today. I mean, this year.
All right, this next one makes me chuckle because me too. Uh, we have a question from an individual. How do I know when I added the right amount of substance to my essay? I have a habit of writing too much and repetitively, and I want to make sure I am not writing too little or too much.
That's a really great question. So I think you don't want to repeat yourself, but I think you want to make sure this is where an outline I think is really helpful. So in an outline, you're going to start with what you want to say, and then you want to make sure that you put it in an outline form so you have the things you want to make sure that you add in there and what order you want to add them in and that you're not repeating things, right? And so maybe there's 3 different points you want to make in this essay. And so what's the order you want to make them in? And then just kind of start going that direction, right? And so, and then maybe it just sort of like makes it a little more cohesive when you do an outline. And then after it's all said and done, if you still sort of get that feeling where maybe it's too much information, or I don't know, maybe it's not enough information, have somebody you trust read through it and give you that like honest advice. I always have a friend who to this day, like I have her read through everything I write because I trust her because she's a great writer to tell me, it's like can you cut this down, or can you take out the stuff that doesn't need to be there, and she can whittle something down. Or if she needs to add some filler that maybe I didn't transition well and it just kind of jumps from one thing to the next, she can help me do that. But if you have somebody who's like that, or you find, somebody in the writing center who can just kind of take a quick peek, I think that's always a good idea, because nobody's perfect, right? Like, it's hard to know what's too much, what's not enough, but I think another set of eyes is always really helpful.
And following up on that, for members who don't have English as their first language and have difficulties with writing, what would you suggest for them to do to make sure that they don't make those little mistakes? Would you suggest the same thing, maybe outreaching to maybe their campus student
Yeah.
life or
Yeah,
career?
I think career services or writing centers, there should be something, at most schools like that offer services to either help you write or read through your writing, or, work with you to make sure that, you're giving your best effort, or what you're providing is what you want to provide, right? And to help you do it. So I think that's a really great question. I think that would be my suggestion, is to work with your writing center if possible.
Carol asks, will a scholarship be rewarded after graduation? For example, the deadline for one of the current ones that are open is June 2nd, and she's graduating June 5th.
Yeah,
Is she still eligible, or are members still eligible for those scholarship opportunities?
So what's really great about NSCS is we have scholarships open throughout the year, right? So it doesn't always align to typical scholarship deadlines and when school tuition deadlines, which is good and bad, right? So, we want to make sure that scholarships are always there for our members. And sometimes that means you may get a scholarship and you just graduated, and that money will still be sent to you. And hopefully either that money can be used for, like I said, with like a professional development award. You can use that however you want and however is most beneficial to you. Maybe you want to start paying off your student loans. Maybe you want to use it to take an LSAT class, or maybe, there's a million, maybe you need a new computer, whatever it is. Those scholarship funds are for you. So if you just graduated, you get a scholarship. The scholarship money can either be sent directly to your school if you still have a balance, or if you don't have a balance, then we can send it directly to you, and you can use those funds however is most beneficial to you.
We have a question from Mammy. She's said, I currently am on the dean's list, first time in my family to go to college. I started late. I'm 41. I've filled out about 100 scholarships and I've got nothing. Is it because of my age? That is a wonderful question, because our members vary in all demographics, age, everything.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. So I can tell you a little bit about how our review process works. So when our reviewers are reviewing scholarships, they review blindly. So what that means is when I send them to our review committee, they don't get to see any information on the applicant. So everything is in numbers. They see applicant, and the applicant name turns into a number, and that applicant name is just a number to them. And then they see the essays, and so they're just scoring the essays, and they get to see nothing else. So when I get the information back, I just get the number associated with the student's name, and so I plug it back in to see who that is. But so for us, it's very easy for us to say, no, we do not judge based on any other criteria like age or, ethnicity or sex or anything, because our review process is completely blind. So I don't think it's that. I think there could be many reasons. Like I said, it's so hard. Like it's a competitive, as you can imagine. Like scholarships are very competitive. Everybody is really trying to get scholarships right now with the cost of tuition going so high that students are really trying their best to find ways to pay for that. So, you're probably encountering a lot of competition for scholarships. And so that could be a problem. But I just wouldn't give up, and I would just try, hopefully these tips will help you. And, maybe working with your writing center, if you think that maybe having them look over your essays before you submit, that could be another way to make maybe help too.
One of the questions is, can scholarships be used as living expenses as well as tuition and fees?
So it depends. The first thing that we do is we send it to the school if you have a balance. If for some reason you don't have a balance, or it will affect your financial aid negatively, then that money can be used for living expenses. But it's a case-by-case situation, and but we are able to work with you, and absolutely there are ways to work that out.
This next one is from Vanessa. Is it appropriate to send a thank you email to a company or organization that is giving the scholarship? I would say yes.
I think it's appropriate, yes. There's no reason why you can't. It's always nice too. And I feel like that's one of those things that, like, especially if you get a scholarship, it's always really nice. I think we don't see this as much, but back, when I first started, all of our recipients used to send little cards and say thank you when they got a scholarship. I mean, most people do it now by email, but like, it's really nice when you can do like a little card or email or, different things, note. But yeah, there's no reason why you can't do that. I think that's such a nice touch.
It's interesting seeing these questions and the similarities to interviews for a job. If you
Exactly.
interview for someone, it's typically nice to send them a thank you for interviewing me. So I guess it would kind of go hand in hand with thank you for reviewing my scholarship, or thank you for
Exactly.
my scholarship. I mean, it
Yeah.
kind of goes hand in hand. So you guys are learning about two different things. Does NSCS scholarship require an official transcript?
So we don't require any other documentation. So I know other organizations may require that, but for us, we don't. It may be something we do later on, but right now we don't want to make it's just extra work for our students to do that. And we know that for most of you all, you have a high GPA, and for us, that is the kind of information that we base it on right now. So as long as you have a 3.0 GPA, you can apply for our scholarships. But other than that, we don't require
it. We're dwindling down, Jen. We're getting down to the last few. This one is an interesting one because it kind of counteracted your first don't wait to the last minute. But this one kind of asks the question related to that. A couple of my scholarships were submitted on the final day they were open. This was because I was waiting for the draft to be edited, etc. Will my date of submission impact my decision or the decision?
Absolutely not. So whether you are the first to apply or the last to apply, it's all the same for us. So it's not first come, first serve or anything like that. So they all get put into the review at the same time. They don't put the date they were submitted on the application. None of that is, information that is submitted to our review team. So no need to worry.
So it's not waiting to the last minute to write it, but it was the last minute to
submit it. Yeah, and we do encourage that. Like, I know for a lot of people, you can leave it in draft mode kind of and just sort of work on it till the very last minute, which is probably what I would do. Like, I would probably wait and submit it at the very end because I'm still working on it. But yeah, that's very common to wait to the last day.
Can I still apply for scholarships even if I have taken time off from school? Like if I attended, sorry, I have to read it down here. If I have attended 8 for a year and then can't return to school for a few years because of life. Relatable.
Yeah, so we encourage our students to be in school when they're applying for scholarships. So, if you have taken a break and you're coming back to school, you can start applying for scholarships. We really would prefer somebody who is actively in school apply for scholarships. There are a few exceptions, like a debt reduction award. You don't have to be in school. It's an alumni scholarship, but just meant to help pay down your student debt. You don't actively have to be in school at the time. But yeah, I think, the purpose is to really help students who are in school pay their tuition. That we would encourage you, if you're taking a break, to start applying when you come back, for sure.
This one's a good one. This one, what kind of writing techniques should be avoided? For example, would writing a story about my own life from a third person or narrative perspective be too much, or could it stand out in a good way?
I think if it's done in a good way, creative way, I think that would work. You don't want to lose the reader though, right? You just want to make sure that if you do something like that, you tie it back in, and that it makes sense how you're writing it. So if it seems like the reader's just like, I don't understand what's happening, I don't get it, that's probably not what you want, right? So make sure that it makes sense when you're doing it, that the reader understands the situation and what you're trying to do. That would be
Okay, the last question. Even though I get, let me read it down here, sorry. Even though I get more than required GPA, I am not able to get any scholarships. Is it only the essay that we submit to be considered? So I'm assuming they're asking, is other factors included into the review of their resume or their essays, so to speak?
So the essays are, I would say, about 90%. What we do look at a little, just sort of like, and this depends on the scholarship, you'll see a bit about like how involved you are with NSCS. So it may ask questions like, have you attended any of your events on campus or the national event? So this would qualify as like a national event, right? You attended a ScholarCAST event. Are you involved in any leadership or service events? So we're just trying to get a little bit of an idea of how involved, or what you're doing as an NSCS member. So that, I would say, that counts for like 10%, right? But the majority of it is 90% essay. And we do consider GPA as just like the baseline. So you have to have a 3.0 just to apply. But we're not looking at GPA like who has the highest GPA gets a scholarship, because it's really hard to do that based on, every school is a little different, every major is a little different. So for us, it's all about the essays, and it's like I said, it's just a little bit about, how involved you are, what how you are engaged with service and leadership, either on your campus or in your community.
That's good. All right, there's no more questions.
Those
Well,
were great questions.
everyone,
I'm really impressed.
Those were really good questions. I agree. They were very informative. Since we don't have any more questions and we are 1 minute above or right before the 1 hour mark, we thank you, Jen, for this wonderful insight into writing an effective resume and getting those little tidbits for not only NSCS and Torch Memorial Scholarship Platform, but also for outside resources as well. So thank you for providing us with that. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And like we said before, wait about 24 to 48 hours before the recording will be emailed to you, and we will have that up on Scholar Central as well. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.